Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this Thursday evening here on our YouTube channel and on Facebook. You're watching Newsworthy. My name is Anubha Bhonsle, and over the next couple of minutes, I'll try and do a complete Newsworthy scan for you of all the news that you need to know at this hour. If you're really new to the Newsworthy family, just to say that we believe in news, not noise. We believe in calm and context, not conflict. So let's get started. I have a stack of about 4 to 5 newsworthy stories for you with all the details, the context, and the background. The top story that we're tackling at this hour tonight on Newsworthy is really an exhaustive COVID-19 vaccine update. The central government has now signed a deal with a Hyderabad-based company. It's called Biological E, and this is for 30 crore doses of a COVID-19 vaccine. Remember, this COVID-19 vaccine, I'm not talking about Covishield, I'm not talking about Covaxin, but this, in a sense, is a third vaccine that is undergoing phase 3 clinical trials. The government, we believe, has already made an advance payment of about 1,500 crores to this Hyderabad-based company for this particular vaccine, and the vaccine is sort of yet to be named in a sense. The doses, we believe, will be manufactured and stockpiled from August of this year onwards. Now, all of you would know a whole host of developments that have happened on the COVID-19 vaccine front, particularly the government's policy. The Supreme Court had some harsh words for the government's vaccine policy. The Supreme Court had called the vaccine policy as quote unquote arbitrary and irrational. Now, remember, the government has been putting out a claim in the public domain. It has been claiming that it will be able to vaccinate all adult Indian citizens by the end of this year. But that particular claim really hasn't had too many takers. Of course, the Supreme Court has had some harsh words, but experts are also pointing out that this really is a task that doesn't look like it will have a tick mark at the end of this year. In fact, an analysis by Mint, the newspaper, found that the center, if it had to meet this 2021 vaccine target, it actually needs to boost the vaccinations sixfold. So 6 times up if we are to vaccinate all adult citizens by the end of this year, as the government wants to, as the government claims to. Well, in a sense, there have been, some could say, belatedly efforts to fast track the import of global COVID-19 vaccines. This, in a sense, so that we can broad base our kitty, we can broad base the choices that are available to Indian citizens when it comes to COVID-19 vaccine. And remember, this choice is a factor of lots of things. This choice is a factor of privilege, of where you are in India, whether you can afford to pay, etc. So I'm not going to get into that, but just the bouquet of COVID-19 vaccines that could be available to Indian citizens looks like there has been a belated speeding up of that. Now, we're quoting NDTV and News 18. Both are claiming via sources that the center at this point in time is ready to grant all the demands that have been asked for by 2 companies, Moderna and Pfizer, including giving them legal protection against any lawsuits that they may face in relation to the use of their vaccines. Now, remember, these companies have actually received this protection in other countries. So India, in a sense, doesn't have too much leverage. We will have to give them this legal protection, in a sense, is the indication. Now, the Serum Institute of India, that's manufacturing the Covishield vaccine, also has come forward and says that it wants a similar legal protection because, quote unquote, the rules should be the same for everybody, right? Currently, the company can be taken to court by people who get vaccinated by Covishield. Now, besides Covishield, which is, of course, going to form really a large chunk of sort of the vaccines that Indian citizens get, the SII, which is the Serum Institute of India, is also producing the Novavax vaccine. The regulatory clearance of this is awaited from the United States. In fact, the SII has also recently applied to the regulator. It is seeking permission to manufacture the Sputnik vaccine, which already has emergency use approval in India. So, really, that stack is increasing, as I said. The Times of India is reporting that the ETA for Pfizer in India is likely to be July and August. Mint is reporting on an earlier arrival of Sputnik 5, which we believe will be available at some private hospitals starting mid-June. So I know these are little bits of information. Net, if you're listening to this broadcast, the one way to understand all of these updates is very, very simple. That a bulk of the vaccines which are being promised, which are in various stages of regulatory approval, are likely to come in the last quarter of this year, even by the government's own estimates and based on details that we have just listed out for you. So, in a sense, this vaccine shortage, this vaccine shortfall is likely to continue for the months ahead. Of course, the ICMR DG, Mr. Balram Bhargav, has been on the record, and that statement has also had a lot of question marks. Remember when he said that there is no shortage? Shortage actually happens when you expect everyone to get vaccinated in a month. Well, no one's expecting to get vaccinated in a month, but if you do get a slot on the app, you must get vaccinated. Let's turn our attention now to the second story that we're tracking here on Newsworthy. And it's a story that we have tracked really very, very rigorously here on Newsworthy. We've done some solid interviews. We've prepared a full guide. And the story is children and the many, many ways in which they have been impacted by this particular pandemic. Yesterday, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, that is the NCPCR, came out with a number that feels like an underestimate, but still really is a very worrisome number. The NCPCR has said that 9,346 children in India have either lost both parents or lost one parent or have been abandoned due to COVID-19. And these figures are for the period of April 2020 to May 2021. Out of that, the NCPCR believes that a little more than half, 56% of the children were aged between 4 and 13 when they lost either one or both of their parents or have been abandoned. 1,742 children lost both parents, and 140, in a sense, were abandoned. In fact, these submissions have come before the Supreme Court. The court took a pending suo motu case on the spread of COVID-19 in children homes, and this data has come to the apex court in regard to this petition. I beg your pardon. Now, as I said at the beginning, these numbers really could be underestimates because a few days ago, we had an official confirmation from the Union Minister Smriti Irani, who said that in April and May of this year, that's 2021, 577 children lost both their parents to COVID-19. Another data point that we have is coming from the state of Maharashtra, and their data is available till May 30th. And the data indicates that at least 4,451 children lost one parent due to the pandemic, and 141 children have lost both parents. This was actually the Maharashtra government submission to the court. The government and the Prime Minister have recently announced a whole host of welfare measures that are targeted really towards children. And this actually includes ensuring a corpus of 10 lakhs when they turn 18, providing for their education. And this is going to be funded from the PM CARE. You may be seeing a helpline number that's been constantly flashing as I've been concentrating on this particular news. Remember, you must remember that if you know of a child in a similar circumstance who needs assistance, you must call 1098. That's the National Childline Helpline number, and it works across geographies. If you can't get through, do try again. Remember, you can also call the state helpline numbers, or you can also inform the police. Another very, very important thing that we must stress here, because obviously people do want to come forward and help in any way. Remember, you cannot share the personal details of the children on social media, and any call that you may want to put out with really best intention, asking that those children be adopted or that they are up for adoption, are calls that you cannot put. This is illegal. It is not safe for the kids. Adoption is a legal process. A child may have lost one parent or both parents, but that does not necessarily mean that the child is up for adoption. I'm also going to put out a link to a complete guide of all helpline numbers, state helpline numbers, experts, and mental health experts that you can contact if you find a situation of this nature. I'll put that link in the description. It's something that's very useful. It's something we've made in collaboration with Save the Children. And remember, the 2 to 3 things that you must know if you find a child in distress is, of course, give them succor, care, take care of them, make sure that they're in good mental health, make sure they have proper food and nutrition and well taken care of. If you know any of the family members or extended family, perhaps make a call to them. But remember, you must call 1098 or one of the helpline numbers. I hope this information has been useful. Let me change track and get on to the third story. We want to concentrate here on Newsworthy tonight. Now, the next 2 stories, in fact, are not pandemic related, but are extremely important. Another bit of news that's coming in from the Supreme Court that has quashed a sedition case that was filed against journalist Vinod Dua by a BJP leader last year. This was actually for a YouTube video that was critical of the Prime Minister's handling of COVID-19. The court, while quashing this particular sedition case, has said that all journalists are protected by what's called the Kedarnath Singh judgment, which had limited the ambit of India's sedition law only really to those actions that could have a direct connection to violence. Now, remember, this is not the only sedition case against the only journalist that's pending before the court. Whether or not this particular case has any bearing on a whole host of sedition cases that journalists are charged with remains to be seen. The list is actually very, very long. It includes Mrinal Pandey, it includes Rajdeep Sardesai, it includes the Caravan's executive editor, and many other journalists who were charged with sedition in relation to the coverage that they did during the farmers' protest last year. Of course, also the case of journalist Siddique Kappan and Kishore Chandravankam in Manipur, who are also facing sedition charges. Let's track story number 4, and it's a story that's been in the headlines over the last couple of days, and this is an update in the Tarun Tejpal case. Remember, the journalist, the former editor of Tehelka magazine, was acquitted by a Goa court. This was the Goa Sessions Court, but now the Goa government will be challenging that May 21st judgment of the Sessions Court that, as I said, acquitted Tarun Tejpal of all charges. This is a 2013 case. Tarun Tejpal, journalist, former editor of the Tehelka magazine, was accused of raping and sexually assaulting his then colleague, his junior, at an event that happened in Goa. The incident happened in a hotel elevator and on 2 occasions in that. Now, while granting this permission, the High Court, now remember, the High Court granting this permission is sort of a legal process that needs to be followed. But while granting this permission, the High Court observed that the Sessions Court judgment was, quote unquote, a kind of a manual for rape victims on how they should conduct themselves. If you're wondering why this particular phrase was used or why this observation was made by the High Court, I'd like to direct you to a video we did here on Newsworthy just a couple of days ago, and it really breaks down the content and the vocabulary of the 527-page judgment of the Sessions Court. That particular video, we are putting out a screenshot on the screen. It will give you a sense of why the High Court said this. It'll also give you a sense of how rape trials are conducted in this country really on a regular basis and how this particular rape trial was conducted. I'll also drop a link to that video in the description. Well, that's all we are packing in tonight on this edition of Newsworthy. If there have been any other comments or questions coming in, perhaps we could flash them on the screen. Also, any feedback that you'd like to give us, tell us how often you'd want us to do it, tell us if you like the length of it, tell us the other topics that you'd like us to cover, and we'll make sure we'll pack all of this in. We've been trying to stay away from lives and live streaming, but I think that needs to be corrected. So here's an effort of that. Also, just to indicate that we are on Instagram as well. Our handle there is Newsworthy with AB. If you are on Instagram or if your loved ones are, do point them towards this handle. I particularly like one series that we're doing that's called Not Just Data. Some of those posts here are on the YouTube community tab as well as on Facebook. Not Just Data is really dedication by friends and family members of loved ones they have lost to this pandemic. If you'd like to share a memory with us, you can write to us on letter@newsworthy.studio or just leave a comment here. Tushar noted your comment on the Indian stand on the UN General Assembly head and president. I'll make sure we cover that either on here on our next YouTube telecast or on Instagram. If you've been watching, thank you for your time.